Okay, this is game 2 from week 1 chess lessons for beginners. Let's go over the ideas. Control the center, develop towards the center, occupy the center with at least one pawn, avoid blocking in your bishops with the king or queen pawns. Do not expose your queen early in the game. Avoid weakened pawn structure. Do not make excessive queen moves. Castle early. Attack an exposed queen. Attack pinned pieces. Place rooks on open files. Make sound tactical threats. Watch for tactical threats. Ahead in material, exchange pieces, but not pawns. Watch for mating patterns. Okay, here we go, game 1. E4, D5, there's a center counter, or center, I think it's center counter. In any case, doesn't matter. Pawn takes pawn. Knight F6, he now has 2 attackers on that pawn. He knows he's going to win it back. Now you don't want to play pawn takes knight, brings the queen into the center, and she's not exposed to attack. Now your pieces can really reach her. Now you place your pawn in the center, or hopefully you'll be able to gain space, because right now black cannot respond with E5, and you want to make sure that he's not allowed to respond with E5. The knight captures white knight, I believe, thinking that he's weakened white's pawn structure. In actuality, he has. White now has let's go ahead and take 1, 2, 3 pawn islands. Black only has 2. That is a weaker pawn position. But for white's case, he now has a freer development possibilities. He can put the rook immediately on a half opened file. The bishops are free to develop, and so is the knight. By pushing this pawn up, he blocks this bishop in, so bishop may have to play along the long diagonal. Knight at C6 doesn't have very many opportunities. All the squares going forward are blocked. You may have to do 2 moves to get in on C4, which could be a strong square for him. Look at how the pieces are developing towards the center. Black immediately goes E5 anyway. I don't think he can do that. Knight takes E5. Knight takes E5. And black has lost a pawn. Now, the doubled pawns and the single isolated pawn here, they are weak, but they're only slightly weak. If these same pawns were on open files, then they would be extremely weak. Queen D4 attacking the pawn here. Castle. White knows that black cannot touch this pawn. Apparently black did not know that. He captures a pawn, and white immediately places him in an absolute pin. So he will lose his queen, and it is very difficult to come back on a game once you've lost your queen. But now, since this is a beginner's lesson, let's see how white is able to wrap up the game. Queen E2 pins the bishop to the king. F6 protects the bishop. But when you have a pinned piece, you always look at opportunities to attack that piece, especially with a lower value piece or with the pawn, and white has the possibility to attack with the pawn. Now this piece cannot go anywhere because it's an absolute pin, and he's going to lose the bishop, as well as having already lost his queen. Bishop takes c4 check. He's in no hurry to take that pawn. That pawn is going to be there. Now he forces black all the way in the corner, and from here black had an escape square. All the way in here he's blocked in, there's no escapes. So he has to be very careful of his back rank. Attacks the rook. Rook moves in such a way to protect the pawn. Queen d3. It's really not attacking the rook because the rook is defended with the bishop, but he is threatening to check on the back rank, take the rook, and render mate. Black plays f1 check. Black is already panicking, trying to survive the game, and you can never survive if you're panicky. Smart move if you can get your rook down to the 7th rank, where usually most of the pawns are. It's always a strong position. Doubling up the queen and the rook on the same file, which makes this a very strong move. He tries to hide his king. Again, if rook takes, queen takes, checkmate. But now the rook and the bishop are working together to make a strong attack on g1. Black does the best he can to delay it. Now he tries to give himself an escape square. He's so far down material that he will not be able to survive. Check. The queen, the bishop, and the rook are surrounding the king. Checkmate. Okay, this most important lesson here was do not panic. After he lost his queen, he just gave away his rook, and the walls will come falling in very quickly. Let's see what the summary says. Black exposed his queen to an absolute pin. He was still behind in development at this point, so the direct attack by white ended the game quickly, and it sure enough did. Okay.